They tend to be...
Not crimes against the person.
Yeah, exactly. Crimes against the person are what gets you the really big times. So these huge guys here, for example, they're always in for murders and robberies. And it's not a random selection of crimes, right? It's actually based on a set of internal traits that each prisoner has, right? So whether they're violent or not, whether they're a very dangerous individual, whether they're destructive, whether they're an arsonist, they're kind of internal settings in the prisoners now.
Is there an arsonist flag?
Yeah, am I an arsonist? Not
0 or 1.
Not so directly, but it's more like whether they have a trait for being into that sort of thing, like whether they're likely to be highly destructive or whether they're willing to risk life.
Sure.
So, and that's why so their criminal histories tend to reflect that. You know, it's not just a randomly chosen set. And it's important to mention that their category is actually just an estimate, right? They arrive at your prison. This guy's been convicted of attempted murder and got 17 years, but he pleaded not guilty, right? So you can't actually be certain. A certain fraction of crimes they're not actually guilty of. It's a miscarriage of justice. So you can't be certain from this that he is actually a highly dangerous maximum security prisoner. You just think it's likely because that's his conviction. But you may find over time that he doesn't actually ever get into any fights or anything like that, and ultimately end up deciding that he's not necessarily that dangerous.
And you can downgrade him.
So you can't yet downgrade him. That's a future upgrade, right? For Alpha 7 maybe. But in the case of Alpha 6, at the moment their categories are fixed.
Just going to see how they work.
Yeah, we'll see how much that affects the balance of the game.
Nice.
So, what else is different? Well, you can control the intake of prisoners. I need to just turn something off here. Let me get out open doors. That's a feature for a future alpha that's not yet ready. You can
I got an email from someone asking whether or not cheat modes in the alpha in the release builds. They're not, are they?
No, they're not in the alpha. No, and I actually ran a poll on it on the forums and said, would you rather have new features in the game or would you rather have cheat codes and debug menus? And the overwhelming answer was new game features. So that's why I haven't put the time
absolutely.
in.
Absolutely.
So so intake then, right? Intake's always been a little bit broken, right? New prisoner arrivals. So now you can control it, right? You can go to reports and you can go to prisoners, and you'll see here's our categories of prisoners now: low risk, normal, and high. And you'll see that we have settings here for whether we're willing to receive that type of prisoner, right?
Okay.
So I can say I can be closed on all three types, right?
You don't get any prisoners.
So it says up here, prisoner intake. It's in the top left. Your prison is closed to new inmates, so we won't actually receive any new prisoners now until I change that.
And when you hover over them, it says fire.
Oh yeah, that's because it's I've got cheat code.
Is that your new execution
you can't actually
mode?
Fire prisoners in the game. That's because it's a cheat code.
Right, he wasn't listening to
that. So and you can say, I only want high risk prisoners, for example. So now I'll get 10 prisoners tomorrow, and they will all be maximum security if I have that setting.
And do you get paid more for them?
Currently you get the same amount for every prisoner, but that's an obvious thing that will be changing in the future.
It's
a balance thing. It's like at the moment I think I've totally broken the balance of the game because I don't know how many maximum security prisoners you should have, and I don't really know how violent they're going to be. I mean, generally speaking, the maximum security prisoners, the guys with all these extra traits, they're much more violent, they're much more dangerous. If they get into fights, they don't stop fighting until one of them's dead.